everyone, and welcome to SF5 Street Smarts. This is episode number 2. If you're joining us from episode 1, welcome back. And if you missed episode 1, then don't worry because we have that VOD up on YouTube right now for you to check out. Now for today's episode, we have a packed one, but it's going to be super useful. So we're going to be learning how to hit the lab with AutoMattock, and we're going to be learning how to build our brand with Mama Dow. Both of these things are super important because these are going to help give you great foundations in leveling up in general. One thing that I love with EXO Academy is that Mama Dow helps with these branding techniques and helps with these social media techniques that really help us promote ourselves at the end of the day. And you know, 28% of you only said you are utilizing your social media profiles to their fullest. So we're definitely going to be able to help you guys out with that. Now, on the lab side of things, we were asking you guys how familiar you were with the training mode. 30% of you said you use it all the time, but 70% of you said you use it and not optimally. So we're definitely going to be helping you guys out today. It's going to be awesome because both AutoMattock and Mama Dow have a ton to share with you. So let's just jump right into it and chat with AutoMattock.
Hey, what's going on, folks? I'm AutoMattock. Today, I offer you a lesson that is geared towards the newer level players and how to understand training mode. But I want to talk a little bit about myself and my stubbornness in learning these concepts such as frame data and my path to becoming this sort of fighting game scientist on Twitter, YouTube, strategist. I want to talk about what the path was to lead me to this so that I can eventually offer you the same tools so you don't have to go through the same process that I did. So when I was growing up in the arcades playing Third Strike, I was, learning the ropes. There wasn't a lot of information back then. There was no Twitter, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't really good strategy guides. We had some forums. The information was quite limited and oftentimes hidden. So what was known you weren't always communicating that information because that other player wanted to win. So I felt the need to really take it upon myself to figure everything out on my own without really understanding the tools of the game and how it really worked. So I was resistant to frame data. I felt that if I could beat my opponents without it, it was like an accolade. I achieved this. I play with my heart, you play with numbers, and I win. But eventually, I learned that it was not the most expedient process to quickly digest and learn the fighting game itself. I wanted to get better, and eventually I kind of came around to the idea. I slowly started learning a little bit about startup, this and that, but it really was the going through different games and learning one thing here, playing a weird character here, and tying all that together that led me to where I'm at today, where I'm oftentimes posting videos on Twitter when a new character comes out, and I'm live streaming on Twitch. People come to my stream to learn immediately because I can break them down, but I can also play the characters at a high level very quickly. And the reason for that is because of features like training mode and using just deductive reasoning and just analyzing frame data, looking at other players and what they're doing. So I want to help you explore this process and understand and learn what took me many, many years. I'd like to try to condense it in this short format designed for beginners. Alright, so we're going to talk about some of the different modes that training mode offers, and we're going to go through each one. I'm going to tell you how it works, but I'm also going to tell you how the character can operate, and you can learn new things and find out more information, develop new strategies within each of these modes. So I'm going to be using Sagat for this tutorial, but all of the ideas, the information that you get from the training mode can be applied to all the characters. So, first we're going to talk about attack data. When a video game, when a fighting game has this feature, it tells you at least some of the frame advantage. Oh man, it's such a good tool to expedite the process. Because like I mentioned, when I was coming up in the arcade, everything was trial and error, word of mouth. Some things really didn't work. You didn't really know, but it just kind of worked because we didn't know any better. Now we have a feature that allows us to verify and confirm what really works and what doesn't. And attack data is a very large portion of that. Now the reason why is because it gives you your state of advantage. And this number can be found here and here with each character respectively. So the left side is Sagat, the right side would be Ryu in this case. So what does it really tell me? When I attack my opponent, it says +5. When I attack my opponent with standing light punch, it says +5. So if I go through other normals, maybe it has a different number. My stand light kick, +2. So what this means is that I am able to do the next action before my opponent by 2 frames. So I am at +5, my opponent is stunned for 5 frames after I finish my standing light punch. So this allows for frame traps, combos, different block stun sequences, hit confirms. But if you don't really understand what that number means, then it doesn't really mean a whole lot to you. You have to go through that trial and error process. But if you know what it means, it can speed up the process of developing these combos. So I know that Sagat's standing light punch is 4 frame startup. So if when I contact my opponent on hit and it's 5 frames, that means another standing light punch will also combo, because 5 is more than 4. I also know that my standing light kick is 5 frames as well. So that means my standing light kick will combo after my standing light punch. 5 frames. What it doesn't mean is that a slower normal will combo off of that. I know that my crouching medium punch is 7. So as I'm +5, the crouching medium punch will not combo. Unless the counter is, but we'll get into that later. So if that is +5 and they block it, it's +4. So we get different information as we go through each normal, and we find out maybe we have some potential for a combo here, maybe we have a hit confirm here. Attack data is a great tool in examining this. It also tells you how much advantage you have as you knock your opponent down. So if I throw my opponent, it says 14, +14. I also have Ryu reversal with standing light punch. We'll get into that later. So at +14, I know that my dash, I already know that it's 20 frames. If I'm at +14 and I dash, which is 20 frames, I should be at -6. So if I dash immediately, I'm at -6 after I dash. And attack data tells me that. -6 means I can get punished for dashing. Ryu could wake up with a standing medium punch and get a full combo. That's no good. But now that I've seen the attack data, I understand why it does or doesn't work. This is a really important feature. And this is a great time to mention, this is about throws. Throws, I just want to put out there, the correct advantage for throwing somebody is +2, +3, or +4. And there's a little bit of math involved there, but I just want to put that out there. It's so important in this game at all levels to understand how to really throw your opponent.
All right, you guys, we are here with AutoMattock himself. You know, we're starting to scratch the surface now of today's lesson. So first things first, AutoMattock, welcome, and how are you doing?
Hey, hello, good morning / afternoon. I just worked out, had a pizza, feeling pretty good.
Nice, nice. And we've been seeing everyone's discussion in the chat as well. Thank you, and keep sending those questions. Like I mentioned, we're starting to scratch the surface here with AutoMattock's lesson by talking about attack data, which of course everyone knows about frames, but sometimes I think people underestimate the power of just the attack data in general. Like, how many times have you had a moment where you landed a combo and then they still lived with a pixel and you were like, man, had I gone for that more optimal, slightly more damaging combo, I would have won the round. And I think the lab helps with, you know, figuring that out a lot, right?
For sure, for sure. Whenever a new fighting game comes out and it has just some kind of frame data feature, I'm like, this is going to save me so much time in character development, putting all the strategies together. Otherwise, I have to go through this process, just like back in the day, of trial and error, seeing what worked, what doesn't, and some like weird training mode tricks. If I could just get the numbers, it just makes it so much faster.
Absolutely. So, you guys, we're keeping this little part short because there's a lot more to AutoMattock's lesson on the way. We're going to kick it over to part 2 of his lesson right now, but he'll be back right after to answer some more questions. So enjoy.
Now we're going to get into key display, which you can see that way. Key display can be found on the basic settings menu. You turn it on. This is what it looks like when it's off. This is what it looks like when it's on. So you can see the history of events of which your user or yourself or your opponent how they inputted something. Now, what's good about this is that you can identify execution mistakes. So if I want to understand why I'm messing something up, I can just look at the data, I can look at the history and examine, and then separate the mistake, work on each part individually, and then bring it together. An example of this would be something such as Sagat's toward medium kick. The special normal can be canceled during the startup. So before it even contacts your opponent, you can input a special move. Now let's say I want to do tiger shots. I want to cancel that with a tiger shot. I want to get close and throw a projectile. But for some reason, as I'm doing this, I get an uppercut, and I don't understand why. So if I look at my inputs on the left side, I can see that my toward medium kick, which is actually right here, after my toward medium kick, I mash down, down, diagonal, forward, diagonal, diagonal, which is going to give me an uppercut. You don't see a clean down, diagonal, forward, and then the punches or kicks that's going to give me the fireball. So what I would suggest in this scenario is performing those two actions individually. So toward medium kick and then fireball. Toward medium kick and then fireball. And then I look at the key display. Yes, that is what would work if I did it faster. So then I can work on doing it a little bit faster. And I look at my inputs. They look really clean. That's good. And the more I train this, the more likely I am to perform correctly when I'm in a real match. So you can use this, again, to examine your mistakes, your input errors. The next feature that we're going to talk about in training mode is essential for developing frame traps, understanding your options after a certain normal or even special contacts or is blocked. The guard feature is excellent for teaching you and even training with the random guard and hit confirming and all these kinds of ideas. So if we use the attack data information that we had before and we see our opponent blocking, we can begin to develop frame traps with these normals and see what works and what doesn't. And we can start to optimize our combos, begin to examine the knockdowns that come after the frame traps. So we can start developing this whole idea of you get the knockdown from neutral, you get the advantage from the knockdown, you begin your frame trap sequence. You can pinpoint this specific scenario by using the guard feature. Now again, we're going to go over this later about how to program your 3-frame normal or your 4-frame normal, whichever character you're playing against. 3-frame normals are the fastest in the game in terms of normals in all characters. Some characters don't have them, but if you practice against 3 frames, you'll know that as far as normals are concerned, you'll be able to, the sequence is going to work against everybody. So if I do this standing light punch and I look at the attack data while they're guarding, and they're +4, I know that my standing medium punch is going to frame trap. My crouching medium punch will frame trap because of their startup. So my standing medium punch, 6 frames. I am +4 because of my standing light punch. So there's a window between that +4 and the 6 frames of my startup. That is 2. 6 and 4, 2. 2 is less than the 3 frames of Ryu. So I'm going to counter hit him if I do this sequence. This actually hits on the same frame if I do crouching medium punch because it's 1 frame more at 7 frames. So if all these numbers sound confusing to you, you can just try it out. You can just go into training mode, program the 3 frame, and just see what works and what doesn't. Knowing what doesn't work is also incredibly important. If I try to hit heavy kick here, it's definitely too slow. Even though I have advantage, my heavy kick is too slow. But the guard feature is super important in investigating and determining what works and what doesn't. Another important feature for guard is random guard. Now this will cause your dummy character to randomly guard or get hit, and you can use this to practice hit confirming. So if I use this same standing light punch and I see that it's hitting my opponent, I will do a combo. I can verify that the opponent is getting hit. I can verify that I'm capable of reacting to it if I just try it in training mode. But if my opponent is blocking this attack, I won't complete the combo because this is unsafe. If I do the same thing, the high tiger shot can be punished if they're crouching. So I want to verify that it's hitting them and then maximize my opportunity, my damage. Maybe I don't have a meter available, so I can uppercut from here if this hits. Maybe I come from it faster and I just do a tiger knee. This has a better knockdown, it gives me more corner carry. Understanding the options while my opponent is guarding or not, and understanding what can branch off of that, you can really figure all that out by guarding. You don't even need to know the frame data, but the frame data will definitely speed up the process. Okay, so the next feature we're going to discuss is counter, the counter state. Now, what a counter hit is when your opponent or yourself, when you are attacking your opponent while they're trying to attack you. So you're about to throw a punch and then boom, but this is the important part. You got counter hit because you are about to contact your opponent. During your startup is when you get counter hit. So this feature will duplicate the counter hit state. So while they're not actually in the startup of something, the training mode will just allow you to examine what the advantage is when you counter hit them. So generally, when you counter hit your opponent, it adds 2 more advantage to your normal. Sometimes this doesn't mean anything. For example, if I counter it with crouching medium kick, it's +3. It's normally +1, but it's +3. +3 doesn't really do much for Sagat because he doesn't have a 3-frame normal. So I cannot actually combo off of this, even though it counter hits. But when you find the normals that do work, such as standing light punch when that counter hits, standing medium punch when that counter hits, they offer a unique scenario where you might be able to combo where you couldn't combo at all, or you might get an even better combo than you would if it was just a regular hit. So, as I mentioned earlier, if my standing light punch counters, it's now +7. With normal hit, +5. So this crouching medium punch and this standing medium punch will not connect on a normal hit, but they will connect if it counters. That's a pretty big deal. This combo is much better, much more opportunity from this than I would get if it was a normal hit. I would get something like this. Not bad while I'm in the corner, but the amount of stun, the amount of damage, the difference is it can really contribute to the scenario here. It might be a difference between your throw actually stunning them or just a normal throw, and then you got to work your way to get more offense. So capitalizing on your counter hits, it's really good to investigate this feature and also develop scenarios where you are able to counter hit your opponent. So there's another feature in counter hit that you can use to verify if you yourself are able to react to a counter hit scenario. So when you counter hit somebody, there is a text that shows up, and you can use this. You can react to that happening and then choose after that happens. So for example, if I turn the counter hit on random, just as we did with random guard, we can hit confirm a counter hit. So for Sagat, let me demonstrate how the scenario can work. So if my opponent hits medium, if I hit stand medium punch here twice, it's going to counter hit them. I'm +3, they do their 3-frame normal. I'm 6 startup for my standing medium punch. They contact on the same frame. Priority system in Street Fighter V means the higher strength attack wins. So in this scenario, I'm +9. That sounds excellent. So my crouching medium punch would qualify to combo. But I'm too far away. So is there another way to solve this? Yeah, you got uppercut. You can uppercut from here, and you can also heavy kick if they're standing, and if you got activation, hey, you got some stuff. Massively big difference. So again, if they did not get counter hit here, if they just guard the first attack, then I can't combo this uppercut. I'm only +7. This is heavy punch uppercut. It will not combo from there. So the difference between counter hit and non-counter hit can be the difference between getting a advantageous knockdown or even another hit of the combo. It can really make a big difference understanding this counter hit state. So again, you can put this on random and you can begin to see if you are able to verify, if you're able to hit confirm the scenario itself. So I'll demonstrate this with random counter hit, and I'll only heavy punch uppercut if I see the text. Really unlucky. There we go. That's a counter hit, hit confirm. You can call it whatever you'd like. So only when I see that counter hit text, that's when I'll do the uppercut. In that scenario, if I'm close enough, of course I'll go with the crouching medium punch. But it really, you can adjust this with your guard mode, and figure out the spacing per scenario.
All right, we are halfway through AutoMattock's lesson, and that was a lot of useful information, and we have a ton of questions from you guys in the chat as well, so I'm going to shoot one over to you now, AutoMattock.
All right.
And guys, keep sending these questions because they're great. We're going to try to get to as many as possible. And Alejandro asked, is it necessary to memorize frame data from every possible opponent, or should you just focus on key moves?
No, I don't. The goal isn't to look through frame data charts, have this access to their standing medium punch is 3 active frames. It's really about identifying what's important and seeing what you should know. But memorizing, it's okay, but internalizing and putting it into practice, that is way more important.
Thank you. Thank you. We also had another really good question that I saw from Jeff's Galaxy that I thought was really interesting because you definitely broke down like frames and how these moves work very clearly. But then when you start throwing in like meaties into the equation, how can you explain that to our panelists or our attendees?
I'm reading through the question. I didn't cover active frame meaty stuff because I felt it was a little bit too advanced. I want to give this question a fair shot. Let me read it. That's 4 medium punch has 3 active frames and it's -2 on block. How plus can it be if it hits meaty? That'll be -2, -1. It can be at best 0. It could be at best 0. If it has 3 active frames, this goes into how much stun it gives to your opponent, how much more recovery of the meaty. It's not easy to explain on the fly. So basically, I'll give you an easy rule. If your advantage matches your startup, it will hit on the 2nd active frame. So if you're +3 and you use a 3-frame move, it'll hit on the 2nd active frame and it'll have 1 more advantage than it normally would. Is that good enough?
Well, if not, then you feel free to ask again or ask, for clarification, because later on, AutoMattock will be back. We will be answering more questions, but I also want to hop over to our application questions too. We definitely didn't forget about you guys because you guys asked some really good things when you originally applied. And one of them was, what's your opinion on lab time versus playing as many people as possible?
Well, I'm still stuck on that last question. I just want to clarify. If you want more, just hit me up on Twitter. I'm glad to answer that. So as far as lab time and playing, the way I really don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I think both are really important. At the end of the day, you're going into training mode to play people, I think. But I also think there's a lot of joy and discovery in figuring out how things work and just putting the puzzle pieces together. Even if you have no interest in playing anybody on fighting games, I think you can get a lot out of training mode and just figuring it out. That's really fun to me. So as far as like duration or which one should be, I don't know. I think you should learn something and then try to apply it, however long that takes.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. I mean, they kind of go hand in hand, right? It's going to be more difficult to play against people if you're never going to take the time to lab out and make yourself, competitive against them. So nice. Thank you. Taking a look through some more of these questions. Like I said, you guys feel free to keep sending them. But for now, we're going to ask you a question. We're going to put up a poll right now and test you guys, see if you've been paying attention, and then we'll have AutoMattock kind of grade your scores. So the question right now on your screen, what frames make up a move? Might be a trick question, might not be. Go ahead and throw your answers in there and then we'll see. I know frames can be super complicated and it's a lot of numbers, but it really does make a difference. Not everything looks like what it really is. And when you see the numbers, it makes a lot more sense. So the results are back. AutoMattock, what do you think?
Hey, everyone. My work here is done. I'm going to go downstairs. Yeah, all the above is it's about right. Understanding all the different states, I guess you could say, for each frame, that is really important. But as far as total animation frames, yeah, you can consider startup, active, recovery. That's the general breakdown of it.
Awesome. And yes, the chat, you guys did rock that question. And we've talked about a lot of numbers so far when it comes to Street Fighter V. So let's go ahead and give AutoMattock a little break and flip over to some different numbers. Let's talk about social media, personal branding, and how those numbers and those platforms are going to help you out. We're going to kick it off into Carolyn, Mama Dow's segment on social media and personal branding. It's going to be very, very informative. And all of your questions that you've submitted in regards to social media, both in the Q&A and applications, well, we're going to go over all of those with her right after this segment is done. So don't go anywhere. Get your notepads ready, take some notes, and enjoy.
Hi everyone, my name is Carolyn Dow. I am the social media manager here at Capcom for Capcom Fighters, but I'm also the co-founder for Combo Queens and the personal branding mentor for EXO Academy. Earlier we talked to UIU about the importance of your player resume or sponsorship deck, but I'm here to help you build up your confidence in your social media branding in order to have numbers to represent yourself better once you summit everything to a team. This is what I find fun. I think of social media as like kind of like personal records, like in track and field and stuff. Like I like to beat my own records of like how is this video performing, how does this post perform, and I experiment a lot with Capcom Fighters, and I try to make it more fun. But it's nice to share a little bit of the positive energy, good vibes out there whenever I can, especially because like I am fortunate enough to have the Capcom Fighters brand behind me, and like yeah, it's fun seeing all the personalities out there, and I enjoy showcasing everyone as much as I can because you guys are my friends, you're family, and I see your content and I want to help out and make sure your content gets discovered too. So yeah, hopefully I can help you find out what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and then I would be able to retweet it or something on Capcom Fighters in the future. So please stay tuned and we'll find out what you can help yourself and how you help me help you build your brand. Alright everyone, so we're gonna start with social media etiquette. I know that you guys like to have fun on Twitter, like making a lot of shit posts and memeing with your friends. And that's perfectly fine, but we're gonna talk about how to be a little bit more professional. So when, let's say, like a UIU or an EG takes a look at your profile, they're not immediately turned off. So let's just jump into it. First off, the do's and don'ts of posting. The number one rule that I keep in my head is, like I said, treat as if your employer is watching. So that means don't post anything like excessive partying, drugs, anything like cyberbullying. It's just imagine like you're hiring someone based off of your profile, and if you look at it, is it professional? And then if not, I like to do something personally where I read out my tweets. Like I verbally say my tweets to say like, does this sound alright? And if it's not, then I'll just keep it under my drafts. Or if I'm really unsure, I'll maybe ask for a third opinion. That is a great way to keep yourself in check and make sure that you're not doing anything wrong. And it's a better safe than sorry situation, especially if you're going to treat this as your job and make money off of it. The next thing that I like to talk about is how do you get your posts noticed? So the funny thing about social media is there's a lot of things going around in the background, like algorithms, for example. So with each different platform, there's a different type of algorithms, which I will go a little bit more in depth. But the easiest thing to remember is just keep interacting with people. For example, Twitter, if you respond to someone and say like, wow, nice clip or cool combo, it's gonna instantly push that post up to their feeds and then show your name more often. So I always try to encourage players to interact with newer people or even fans, because a little bit goes a long way and you might be also getting a full-time fan along the way. So content is important because I know you guys think that all you have to do is play games and win tournaments, but sometimes it's really hard. Like even if you get top 8 at a tournament, no one really cares unless you're first. So I think in order to stand out and also to showcase your personality more, content is a really good idea. Like, look at Smash, they're killing it. They're doing videos like all the time. And it's also introducing a new audience to what you're doing. And yeah, like if you're a really good Chun-Li player or something, maybe you can release videos on how to do more combos, or how to optimize the gameplay, or how to become a better player. Like, look at this stream, for example. This is the type of content that you clicked on, that you were interested in. So think about what people would want to watch, find out things that you want to know, and or if you can talk about something that you wish that someone told you a long time ago, to get the upper hand. That's something that maybe you can do. Make a YouTube video, talk about it on Twitch. You don't always have to keep playing the game, but you can also show your personality, which I don't think gets conveyed a lot, especially during tournament streams, because you're just sitting on a chair. There's a player camera, maybe you can pop off, and that's like the extent of it. But they don't actually hear you talk. Let them know who you are. Put your face out there more often. Now that you have the idea of why it's important to post and create content, you should also keep in mind of like what's good and what's not about posting. Like the do's and don'ts of posting. A lot of people like to have fun with it. They post memes, they do shit posts. That's totally fine, but keep in mind that people are watching. Their potential sponsor, they have an idea of what's going on your feed. So just keep it professional. You can still have fun here and there, engage with your audience, try to think of fun ways to engage them, and because of that, you can also push your interactions and algorithms, build new fans, get new fans, get those clicks. Just have fun with it. Don't overthink it, but also don't post anything you want your parents or your boss to see. So, social media, there's a lot of different platforms, and it can get really confusing, complicated, overwhelming, whatever. But if you keep in mind some of these basics, it could help navigate you through this chaos. The first platform is Instagram. And with all of these platforms, I like to tell people just think about what helps you personally, or what you do personally while you're scrolling down these feeds. Instagram specifically, you're going to keep scrolling. It's going to be a bunch of images, but think about what's going to make you stop. Think about things that stand out. So if you have like a video, might help. I like to personally do lengthier descriptions, like text, because if you're scrolling through a bunch of pictures, text are something you're not going to be expecting. So if you see like a block of text, you're probably going to click it, read it, and then get to know that personality a little bit more than just an image or like a picture of their shoes or whatever. The next one is Twitter, which is the complete opposite of Instagram, where Twitter is very text heavy. A lot of people are speaking their minds. It's very fast paced, moving all the time. So in order to stand out a little bit more, try to post an image. And if you want to go a step above image, there's GIFs. But just having those little things, it'll have someone else stop, because they're like, oh, what's this picture for? Like, wow, is that Poison? Or wow, is that Ryu, Chun-Li, or whatever? And then you might get those character loyalists to stop and click on it. I personally like to use GIFs more because, like I said, it's all about your personality, and you want to try to get those fans to fall in love with you. Because, like, I don't think it's good for me to say this, but, like, they're more than just games. Like, you can also, like, branch out. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like, show that I'm a really good personality, and in order to showcase that personality, use GIFs. Like, images are already 1,000 words, but imagine if there's multiple frames and how many words that could convey. For example, I already have a bunch uploaded on the Jiffy keyboard on Twitter. I think you can search it on Twitter and Facebook. But if you search Capcom Fighters, there's already a lot of recognizable names. Maybe you're in there, maybe you're not. But that's also a really good resource to have. But always just remember to credit your artists too. I personally don't need credit, but if you're taking images specifically of fan art, or a photographer took a really cool image of you, just make sure to credit. That's a good rule of thumb and like basic decency. But yeah, those are some ways you can stand out above everyone else over Twitter. And then the next is Twitch. Twitch is, I think, a lot of the streamers or like a lot of the FGC in general like to do Twitch because it's really easy. All you have to do is sit down, click stream, play your game, and that's about it. But what's the point of streaming every day when no one's watching? And in order to help boost your Twitch viewership, I like to have clips. Some, I think partners already have access to the clips. You can download them right away after you create that clip. I think that's might be just a partner specific thing, but if not, that's totally fine. You can take that link that gets generated when you're done with that clip. There's a website called Clipper XYZ. I think that's right. If anything, if I'm wrong, I'll link it somewhere or I'll post it somewhere on social media or something. Go ahead and click it, bookmark it, because it's going to be very essential, especially for Twitch streamers. But you take that clip link, post it in there, and it'll generate a downloadable video, and then you can just take that video and then upload it directly onto Twitter or Instagram, or just like keep it on your computer so you can edit it all together so you can make YouTube videos. I think YouTube is the next step for the FGC because there's a lot of potential there that we're not utilizing. I know there are some people out there like Brian F., Alex Myers, Justin Wong. They're already getting ahead of everyone, and it's, I think, the next step for us to naturally go. But with YouTube, you're gonna have to learn a little bit in order to get those views, because even if you're creating the best content in the world, it doesn't matter if you're not getting those clicks. So embrace your inner clickbaity self, because we're gonna have to dive into that. Either if it's like your thumbnail or your titles, it's gonna have to have something to entice your viewers to click on it. So that's where clickbaiting comes in. Use that thumbnail. Look shocked. Don't just use your Twitch screenshots, because that's lazy and people can tell if it's lazy or not, and they're not gonna click it. So try to learn a little bit of Photoshop. If you have a friend or someone that you can hire, then that's also a really good idea. But try to get that thumbnail where it looks engaging and fun and something that you want to click on. So I personally like to study bigger YouTubers, see what their thumbnails are like, and see what's working. Like, I know the Try Guys, for example, if you pay attention to their feeds, they'll have one thumbnail one day and then they'll change it the next day because they're noticing that it's not generating enough clips, and then they change it a little bit just so it stands out a little bit more. And I listen to their podcast. Like, some people say oh, most of the clicks come when my face takes up half the screen, and that's some things you have to notice, and it adds up and it helps a lot in the long run. And like I said, these are our potential plans. Something I didn't talk about yet is search engine optimization, which is a very fun word in the marketing world. It applies to Google searching for YouTube videos. With our topic right now, search engine optimization is regarding your titles, your tags, and even description. If you do something super generic, if you type that up, it's going to be really hard to find. Like, if you put punk versus smug, that's going to be super generic. There's so many different definitions for punk, there's so many definitions for smug, and so you might get a lot of different results that you don't want. So in order to narrow it down, or think about what you're searching, you're gonna add Street Fighter 5 punk versus smug, or combo breaker 2000 blah 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 punk versus smug. It's those little keywords that add up, that the more keywords you have, then it's capturing all those search results that people are potentially typing. So even if they just type Street Fighter, if your video does well enough, it might pop up whatever video you're creating, your tier list or whatever. So keep that in mind. Get a little clickbaity, embrace the clickbait, even though it's very cringy. It's the unfortunate truth that we all have to be aware of. So embrace it. It's here to stay. And adapt, because a lot of things are changing too. Back in the day, thumbnails were all about sexy bikini models, which is a really big thing back in the day. But now it's more about personality and colors. Colors are important. Look at like your feeds. If you notice everyone else's thumbnails are very red, try to choose a color that stands out. Just be unique. Try to get whatever advantage you can, and it'll help out in the long run. The world of social media and the internet in general, you kind of notice that everything's very fast-paced, everything's constantly moving, and it's really easy to be forgotten or just overlooked by everyone else. So we're going to talk about the different platforms and how often you should post in order to get recognized or get your name out there. Because like I said, we're billboards. Your face, that profile picture is your billboard. So let's try to get your profile picture out there as often as possible. Starting with Instagram and Twitter. They're very similar. More about like daily posting helps because like I said, the feeds are going to move fast. They're going to forget about it if you don't post every day. So try to just like, even if you're not posting every day, try to engage every day. Comment on another picture because even if you're not posting something, your name is showing up under the comment section of another influencer, another person, and people would even go like, wow, I didn't know they had an Instagram or a Twitter. So they click on it, follow you, and it adds up. For Twitter, just, yeah, like those engagements, it helps push your posts up to the feeds depending on how their feed's set up. But usually when you interact with something or someone, it'll push that interaction to the top, especially if there's other people commenting, retweeting, liking, or whatever. But it's also important what time to post it, because if you post it at an awkward time, then people won't be able to engage with it. So I like to tell people to think about when you're checking your social media, like, are you the type of person that checks it during lunch? Are you the type of person that wakes up and checks it immediately? Keep that in mind because usually that's how everyone else is treating social media too. So for Capcom fighters specifically, we are dealing with a lot of different time zones. So if I want to reach the East Coast time and West Coast time, maybe I'll post at like 8 or 9 a.m. because I can catch those morning people who check their feeds while they're waking up or something. And I can also get the East Coast people who are getting onto lunch and just checking their phones while they're eating or something. So there are a lot of resources. I think even if you just Google posting frequency and like even like under images, they'll have a chart of like when are the best times to post. Like I said, if you're posting at awkward times, it's gonna kill your engagement. Like if you post in the middle of the night, it might not get the same audience that you would want. But depending on your content, maybe you want to reach like the UK crowd or Japan scene. But just keep in mind of the time, because time is very important with posting. And like I said, you want to get as many eyes as you can, and this is a good way to start. And the next one with YouTube is that, like I said, well, actually with YouTube specifically, there's like a lot of YouTubers talk about this, but it's very hard to get discovered. But like I said earlier, keep in mind your thumbnails and your tags and things like that to add a little bit of advantage. But because of that, because of their algorithm, it tends to not show subscription feeds as well as it should be. So you should try to post daily or weekly depending on your workload, because you don't know when the algorithm's gonna get messed up and your content's not gonna get shown. So if you have the workload, or if you can handle the workload of doing daily, like maybe just chopping up your Twitch streams and making it digestible on YouTube, go ahead and do it daily. If you don't have the time to do that, weekly's just fine. But the key is consistency, and as long as you're getting your name out there, people will not forget about you. And with this day and age, it's very easy to get overlooked by someone that's doing better. So, like I said, try to get every advantage you can, especially with YouTube, because YouTube is very inconsistent. So just know that you're trying your best. Keep in mind what you're doing wrong too, because there is the times too for YouTube. Some people say Mondays are really good to post because they're catching up on everything, or maybe the weekends when they have time to pay attention to their feeds, binge watch all of their subscriptions or whatever. And I'm pretty sure there's probably a guide or infographic or whatever for YouTube posting as well. You have the same resources. I'm probably Googling everything, so you guys can also Google everything. Fun fact, I legit said that during my interview, and they're like, yeah, you're right. Google is like the best way to answer questions you don't know. So keep that in mind. So the next one is Twitch. Twitch is like a lot like YouTube, where it's all about content. It's about getting your face out there, talking to your audience. But do you need to be a daily streamer? Do you need to like consistently stream at that same time to make sure your sub count stays active or whatever? The answer is, again, like YouTube, depends on your workload. But at the same time, you could be streaming every day, 24 hours, whatever, like way more than a daily streamer should be. But does it matter if no one's paying attention or clicking? No. So don't put all your eggs in one basket for Twitch. This is also why I recommend all social media platforms, because even though you're streaming on Twitch, it's really hard to get discovered, especially in a niche game now. So try to promote your Twitch in the ways I've talked about earlier, through like Twitter, Instagram, or whatever. Twitch clips, like I said, I'm emphasizing it because Twitch clips are amazing. But yeah, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't just like make sure you're getting that link out there. And then if you're putting it up on YouTube, talk about your Twitch, just like name drop it. It's like, oh, and by the way, I stream on these days at Twitch TV/blah blah blah. So stack everything in towards your advantage. Try to get more discovered, or be more discoverable on all the other platforms. And then maybe you don't have to be a daily streamer anymore, and you can invest that time towards something more productive and not kill yourself. Because I know it's time consuming, I know it's exhausting. So try to think smarter and not harder about this. Alright, so now that you know about all these posting do's and don'ts, why is it important to do it frequently, and why is it important to not just invest in one platform? And the easy answer is, like I said before, your profile picture is a billboard and you're promoting yourself. If you're only promoting yourself on one platform, then you're only being discovered on that one platform. So for example, on Twitch, if you're only streaming and broadcasting to your Twitch followers, it's only going to show that you're alive towards those people. So if you were to create a Twitter or an Instagram, then you can also let that audience know whenever you're live or whenever you post a new video. So it will increase the amount of clicks you get in the long run. Alright guys, now that we know about social media and posting, there's gonna be that one part we don't like to talk about, and that's the hate comments. Woo! So the number one rule I always tell everyone is don't feed the trolls, and I think that is like the most important rule of the internet. They're gonna try to spread negativity and they're gonna try to fuel the fire, but you have the potential or the energy to not fuel it, and you have all that energy. You're making content, you can use it more positively, spread more awareness, support your friends, but just don't let the trolls win and take that energy away from you, because yeah, like I said, you can be more positive and channel that energy to doing something more important. Everyone here is there to support you. I'm here to support you on the Capcom Fighter side. I really want to be able to repost everything you do. So help me help you make everything a little bit more tailored, a little bit more professional, and think about what would make me want to retweet your video or share it with everyone else. Because like I said, I have the Capcom Fighters platform. I want to be able to share everything because you guys are doing amazing work. But if it's not professional, if it doesn't reflect well on our feed, like maybe you have something like a curse word in the first second, that's immediately gonna make me go, oh man, that made the recording unusable. So keep that in mind, and hopefully we can get more of your content out there. Also, keep asking questions. Be curious. I'm on Instagram or Twitter. You guys can reach me or reach out to me there. I also do a lot of the stuff for Excel Academy. I think we're gonna have applications open soon. So if you're a woman in the FGC, make sure to check out Persia's Excel Academy. Apply. If you get picked, you're gonna get a one-on-one session with me for about an hour, hopefully more, because I enjoy talking about these things. I'll even review your resume, your deck, your feeds, everything, and give you recommendations on how to improve yourself. And yeah, I want this FGC to succeed, and I love you guys. You guys are my family, so let's all work together. Screw competition, support each other, retweet everything, because like I said, there's a lot of potential. We're not reaching it because we're so busy focusing on other things. So let's just take the energy that we would have had from the haters and put it towards supporting your friends and other fellow content creators. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys pay attention to the next event, and I'm looking forward to it because like I designed this whole program to help everyone, and I know there's more than just being a player. There's like, you want to stream, you want to do other things, and you're already at a good start by clicking on this. And like I said, stay curious, look for more content, reach out, look for your own learning like resources. Like I personally use Skillshare. YouTube is really big, but stay curious, be proactive, and never stop learning.
All right, you guys, we are here with Mama Dow. Oh my goodness, your segment right there is so enlightening and very, very good stuff. Guys, don't forget, this will be up as a VOD later on, so you will be able to go back and watch it because this entire episode is just filled with such important things. But anyways, Mama Dow, what's up? How are you doing?
Hi, I'm great. I'm very excited today. I've never, I tend to avoid being on camera, so, this is a first for me.
Well, you're great. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
And we also got a ton of really good questions, even though you've covered a ton of stuff. And some of the questions, you guys, kind of were answered within the segment. So, you might have found your answer already, but there were a few that I saw in terms of post frequency and stuff like that. We definitely talked about how you should be posting and times and stuff like that. But I saw a few questions from the chat in regards to posting too much, or, what if we're posting day-to-day things that aren't necessarily tied to our content? Is that okay? And, what's the maximum limit for posting?
Yeah, so I did see in the questions also the tweet chains and tagging everyone. Please don't do that. We actually, it's very annoying, to be honest, when you tag all of us and then our feed is just filled with people responding to it. And if you just want to get your content out there, just try to network, get to know us, and then if we enjoy what you're doing, we'll support it. And in terms of proper posting, try not to spam. Like I said, try to find an account that you really enjoy, and then just try to emulate what they're doing and then see what they're doing right, and then use that for your own accounts as well.
Nice. I did see another question that was pretty interesting too from the Q&A portion. A lot of times this is its own full-time job, it seems, when it comes to social media and stuff like that. Is there any one aspect that might require a little bit more of, or a little bit more priority when someone's really busy, right? You work full-time, you're I only have so much time. Are there any aspects that maybe they should focus a little bit more on and prioritize their time to? Or is it all, a full circle, you need every single aspect?
Oh man, if you ever look at a job description for social media managers, they need you to know graphic design, video editing, learning all these accounts and everything. But it all goes back to just visuals. So I always tell people to focus on your visuals and maybe your personality a little bit more, because that's what's really drawing your viewers in and keeping their attention.
Exactly. And we're also going to throw a poll at you guys real quick. Make sure, you're paying attention and make sure we're keeping you on your toes. So if you paid attention to that segment, go ahead and answer the following questions. What are the benefits to social media? We'll give you a second to answer, and then Mama Dow will grade your results.
So the funny thing about this too is one of the options is engaging your sponsors. I actually go more in depth to this with XO Academy, and if you get one of the sessions, I actually teach you how to pull the data from your accounts and like put them in a PowerPoint deck or whatever too.
Yeah, Mama Dow's sessions with XO Academy are the only sessions we don't record because all of those numbers are very sensitive, they're very personal, and they're very important to, pitching yourself as, 2 teams and 2 sponsors. So let's take a look at our results here. What do you think, Mama Dow?
Everyone's doing great.
So this one was also kind of a trick question, right? All of the above, all of these things are important. So many benefits to social media. And, there was something else you touched on that I think is really important that I even fail at too many times. Don't feed the trolls, you guys. Don't feed the trolls. I felt like that was so important. It happens. People are out there and they want to get a rise out of you. But like Mama Dow said, put that stuff towards something positive, like being productive and, obtaining your PhD in Google, which I feel like I have. Every time I have a question, I'm like, Google, help me. And, I did see a comment in the chat that you answered, Carolyn, kind of via text, but I think it's, nice to expand on a little bit, is that a lot of other skills and other talents go into kind of making your whole brand and your whole social media effective. So any tips and advice to people who, don't have video editing skills or, aren't aware of certain production things that they could enhance their brand. Any tips on that end?
So I did talk in the chat about how we are going to have Spooky in a future episode, and he's going to go talking about streaming your locals and just streaming in general. And he'll give you a lot of advice on like your rigs and stuff. But he also emphasized that lighting is more important than your camera equipment. Like I can take like an old film camera and then make it better with just proper lighting or like natural sunlight or whatever. But you don't need state-of-the-art stuff. And then if you're also not a great graphic designer, there are resources online like Fiverr, even Etsy. You can always hire someone on the cheap to do it, but I personally enjoy doing graphic design because it's fun and it lets me be creative. And like just knowing basic Photoshop will carry you a lot further, I think.
It's true. And there are like monthly subscription stuff and things. So if you don't want to like take the plunge, and because that stuff can be very, very expensive, but there are other resources online, templates and stuff like that. I'm pretty much self-taught. All the XO stuff I'm self-taught, and it's me panicking on Google. Like, how do I make this scene fade into another scene? I don't know. But you got to start somewhere, and we're in quarantine. No better time than the now. So let's go ahead and bring this section to a slight close, but don't worry, Mama Dow's going to be back later, right after our second portion, our second lesson from AutoMattock on Street Fighter V. So we're going to kick it over to him because there's a lot more to learn, so get ready.
So the next feature we're going to talk about is recovery. Recovery is extremely important in Street Fighter V. Recovery describes your character getting off the ground as they're knocked down. There are 3 ways to get off the ground, typically. Normal recovery, back recovery, and no recovery. Now there's features in training mode that demonstrate each of these knockdowns. Now there are some knockdowns where you cannot back recover. There's some knockdowns where you can't even normal. It's only no recovery. These are typically crush counter combos. Gil has some retribution combos or retribution knockdowns you can do as well. But for understanding all these features, we're just going to do a normal EX Grand Tiger Shot. So what's important about the difference between normal recovery and back recovery is that there is a 5-frame difference. Normal recovery happens before back recovery would happen. So I'll show you what happens, and we'll go over a little bit of data with this as well. So if I EX Tiger Shot and I dash up twice, you can look at the attack data, and I'm +9. If I dash up twice and my EX Tiger Shot is close enough, +9. We'll do it one more time. +9. But if my opponent back recovers, we know that back recovery is 5 frames later. So I must be +9 +5, which is 14. So if I set them to back recover, +14. Now these are both great advantages to be at. As long as you're +2 and close enough to their back recovery, you have quite a few options available. As long as you can throw your opponent, be in range to throw them or be able to frame trap them, you can at least present some threat in this game. But understanding the difference is super important. We'll use the crouching heavy kick knockdown for Sagat to demonstrate how these normal and back recovery interactions work. Alright, so when I hit crouching heavy kick, my opponent normal recovers. I am +3. +3. So that means if I dash up and I hit standing light punch, I should frame trap them. My standing light punch is 4 frame startup, and I have pretty good options on block and on hit. So my opponent, my lovely assistant, is gonna wake up with a 3 frame normal, like that. I'm gonna dash up and hit standing light punch, and we should see a counter hit state as long as I do this correctly. All right, excellent. But if my opponent back recovers and I do the same sequence, they'll attack me. My standing light punch should happen before they even get off the ground. It should not contact them unless I time it incorrectly, as I may have just done. So that will not work in this scenario because he hasn't gotten off the ground yet. It happens later. So understanding this interaction for the knockdowns, you can really explore it for yourself when you're examining this in training mode. Normal and side note, no recovery happens much later than both normal and back recovery. If I sweep them, I have a lot of time before they get off the ground. I did like 3 dashes there, where normally I can only do 1. An important note about the counter hit feature, of course, it's our favorite feature, is crush counters. Now, when you have a normal that qualifies to be able to crush counter your opponent, such as Sagat's toward heavy kick, standing heavy kick, crouching heavy punch, crouching heavy kick, crouching heavy punch, you can access these crush counter states by using the counter hit feature in training mode. So let me go ahead and put this on. Let me do some adjusting here. No wake up actions. So if I want to see what kind of combos I can do off crouching heavy punch when it crush counters in the corner, I can see easily with the counter hit state what is possible. Now if I'm not in the corner, it's not going to work that way. But then I can look at the knockdown. So if I dash up twice, I'll have +3 here. They back recover, +8. So each of these crush counters is so important to understand what you are able to do after you crush counter your opponent. A good sample here would be if I did standing heavy kick with Sagat, but I uppercut, I won't have as much advantage on the knockdown if I were to do something else like Tiger Shot. If I dash up with Tiger Shot, I'll have more advantage than I would with an uppercut. That's -4 when I dash. But if I do a Tiger Shot, I'm +19 after 1 dash. I get a lot more advantage. So you can really discover what your options are when you get a crush counter state and choose which combo is best for the scenario. The given, do you want to do more damage to kill them? Do you want to do more corner carry? And then the counter hit state will allow you to easily access those crush counter normals. This next feature is located back in the dummy settings, and this is how you can record your opposing character. You can program them to perform something as soon as they get off the ground, their first available frame of time. So immediately upon waking up or guard. And these are programmed the same way, but they influence different actions. So wake up is when they get off the ground, and guard is when they are blocking something. They will respond as soon as they finish blocking. So to program this, you can actually use the interval settings to make it a little bit faster. Doesn't really make a monumental difference. You can even use the wake up slowdown. That helps out a little bit if you're having trouble recording it. But you want to go to the recording slot, activate it, and what I do, this is with the slowdown feature, I just mash whatever I want. But most of the time it works. Sometimes it doesn't for different reasons. And my personal setup Usually I put a 3-frame normal on slot 1, a 4-frame normal on slot 2, and then their reversal on slot 3. And then for 4, sometimes I use the V reversal, and 5, I'll use something that as needed, like a back dash, a jump away, something that is kind of like specific to a matchup. Maybe my opponent behaved weird and I don't understand what happened there, and I'll just use this slot for that scenario. So for slot 3, we're gonna record an uppercut, and for this, same thing. I'm just gonna mash it. If you actually mash 3 punches here, it'll give you a V reversal because your opponent, they're considered to be blocking. Well, if I do this in the guard slot, so if I go through guard and I do the same thing, because they're blocking now, it's actually going to give me a V reversal because of the 3 punches. So I need to use 2 punches because you don't get a V reversal with 2 punches. And I would have that on the recording slot 3. So the way this works is you then activate that recording through the slot. So you turn it on. So now his wake up action should be the 3-frame standing light punch. And I can go back to examining each of these knockdown recoveries. So if I do crouching heavy kick, they get hit by it, I dash up, I should be +3 if I do it correctly, which means I have the advantage. And now I can use this to see how I can really optimize a scenario. So at +3, I can both throw and counter hit with standing light punch before he can connect with his standing light punch. So I can throw before he attacks, and I can attack before he does. And again, it's good to drill these, because as you can see, I'm messing up the dash. I was actually +1 when I dashed, which means that I didn't dash correctly. I gotta do it faster. So you can drill these scenarios. And again, you also want to examine, you want to research how the back recovery would behave when they wake up with a 3-frame. Because if I do that sweep, I dash up and I hit light punch, my light punch is too fast. I actually have to do something different. And my crouching medium punch is 7 frames. And I'm actually +8, so that means my crouching medium punch will hit on the 3rd active frame. Maybe we'll talk about that later. So I actually get more advantage than I normally would. So I can do some weird combos from here. But this isn't really that practical. The reason why is because crouching heavy kick, I don't really want to do it up close. If I do it up close, this crouching heavy kick is not safe on block. -14. I can get punished for this. So I want to do it a little bit further away. But if I do it further away, they're really far away. So understanding all these different options in training mode can help you figure out these strategies, what works, why, and what doesn't. The same thing applies for guard. This is going to help. It'll help you figure out these frame traps, especially if you program that 3-frame normal. You combine this with the dummy setting guard all. So I know that my stand light punch now is +4. So it'll frame trap a 3-frame normal as long as I do something that's 7 and below if it's a medium strength attack. And now I know my opponent is behaving in a way that I program it. It's a 3-frame reversal. This will apply to all characters with 3-frame normals unless there's something, weird something going on with their hitbox or whatnot. So this is going to help me figure out each individual situation. Now another thing you can do with this feature is calculate how long something might take. This might sound a little complicated, but it'll help you determine how fast something is, and maybe you can apply it somewhere else down the line. So if I grab my opponent and I dash at them, it starts at +14. And then when I dash, it says -6 after I dash. So that must mean that my dash took 20 frames to get close to him. Because the difference of 14 and 16 on a timeline is 20 frames. So now that I know my dash is 20 frames, if I take another knockdown scenario, such as EX Tiger Shot, and I dash up twice and I'm +9, that must mean that I'm +49 because I did 2 dashes at 20 frames each and I ended up with 9 frames of advantage. So if my opponent back recovers, it'll be 5 more. As we discussed earlier, the difference between normal and back recovery is 5 frames, with back recovery happening 5 frames later. So it must be that +9 plus the 5 frames of the back recovery and my 2 dashes, it must be 54. So +14, 2 dashes at 20 each, 40 plus 14, 54. Math.
Hey guys, we're bringing AutoMattock back in here because we just went over a lot and it's still not over. We still have one more Street Fighter V session with AutoMattock right after this, but I saw some really good questions in the Q&A portion and some questions from the applications that I think are really important to go over right now. Now that we're really getting into the thick of training mode, and for you, AutoMattock, people were wondering, what about a training schedule? Something to help you stay consistent. Like, people have a general grasp on how to use the lab, but are having trouble getting motivated to be in it every day. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, that makes me think about having an idea just in any part of the day. I'll think, well, maybe I should try doing crouching medium punch into medium kick tiger knee at a certain spacing. Then I'll go into training mode, try it out, look at what's going on, if it's worth it. Then if I, maybe it's good on paper, then I'll try it out against an opponent. So I try to put all the different elements together. Thought, experiment, analyze it, then field test.
Exactly. And, the field test really is kind of a measure to see how much you're learning you can put into effect. But what about neutral in the lab? How can someone kind of replicate that or get, the neutral game down? Is that even possible in the lab?
Yes. I think neutral can be sorted out in training mode, but I think you really have to engage with your opponent and understanding how they're using their normals. Because you could go into training mode and then look at the total animation frames of a move. So if this certain normal whiffs and it's 40 frames, I can react with this button, this one's in range, but you gotta go try it out. You gotta make sure that it's really something that is worth it. You might find a punish that's good on paper, but if you mess it up often enough, it might not be worth it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, you guys, there is more to AutoMattock's Street Fighter V session, and we're gonna get to it right now.
Alright, so far we spent a lot of time in this dummy setting where you can see the LB and the RB, you can navigate to the menu. But if you go one more over, you'll see gauge setting. This will include your V meter, your critical art meter, your health, your opponent's health. There's a couple things you can do here, but maybe something that's not really well known is talking about the V gauge and putting it on minimum start. So you want the V timer on minimum start and gauge on infinite. And I'm going to show you why this can be pretty special. So the V trigger feature in Street Fighter V is quite powerful. So you want to learn how you can activate it and what your options are off of activating. So we can use what we learned before with the frame data, and with the gauge on minimum start and infinite, we can examine quickly what normals we can activate off of and what kind of advantage we will have. This is especially useful on blocks. So if I want to know if I EX Tiger Shot and then activate and dash, how much advantage do I have? I can do this and dash up all +5, and then I can make decisions from there. So I can bypass the need to reset the game, and I can just quickly see stand medium punch +9, stand medium kick +6, +10. I can even see what normals, what specials are even cancelable if I'm just learning a character. So you can get a lot of work, a lot of mileage done by using this combination of features of the V timer and the V gauge. Now, if I just want to experiment with my V trigger activated, if I want it to be continuously on, I can put it on infinite, and then I can always throw the Tiger Cannon in this situation, and then I can see what kind of advantage I have from there. I can see what kind of combos I can do from it. These are really tools to help you speed up the process in learning what is available with your character, so you don't have to go back and activate. Now, another interesting feature that you can do with these gauges, you can turn them all off and then have no meter available, and you can see the results of what contributes to your meter. So if you just have nothing available, you can see how your V skill contributes to your bar. So for example, this V skill 2 for Sagat, it powers up my Tiger Knee, and it gives me V bar and critical art gauge. I didn't know that. So if I do a regular Tiger Knee without the V skill, it only gives me critical art bar. I really didn't know that. It gives me both critical art and V gauge. Again, I didn't know that. Typically, you only get V gauge. So that's interesting. Now I'd like to take you through the recording features to cause your opponent to respond to attack immediately after they get off the ground and after they block an attack. And this can be done with the recording features, record wake up actions, and set up wake up actions. So, 3 frame normals, 4 frame normals, these are what I typically default to, and I usually have them available for all characters, but I want to demonstrate how to program them. It's quite straightforward. It can be easy to mess up, but it don't really take that much time. So you have a countdown, and usually what I do is I just mash on whatever I'm doing. Most of the time that works. Sometimes you got to figure out why it doesn't work, and that's really it. Now when my opponent gets off the ground, I just turn that recording feature on, or I turn that recording feature on, and then I knock my opponent down. With sweep, for example, I don't want it to push counter. So if I sweep my opponent, now they're going to get off the ground with that 3-frame light punch, and I want to start building off of that because those are the fastest attacks in the game. So I can use that simple setup. I want to see if I dash and I have advantage. The number says +3. Plus is good. +3 is really good. That means I can hit standing light punch, and it's going to counter hit him if he attacks. I actually didn't dash fast enough there. There we go. +3. My standing light punch counter hits, so it's going to add 2 more to the advantage, which means that I can combo my crouching medium punch, standing medium punch. In this situation, crouching medium punch might be a little bit better because it has more reach and you can cancel off of it. So if I do this correctly, I can develop a sequence in how to attack my opponent. But I also need to test the practicality of it. If I sweep my opponent, I don't want to sweep them from here. This is where that combo works. But if I sweep them from far away, I might see a different result. And this is where I would probably want to use Sagat sweep. If I dash up now, I'm a little bit further away. It might not even contact. But it's good to make sure. My crouching medium punch whip. So I need to be prepared for these kinds of scenarios. So if I were to solve this, now that I know that I'm +3 after that knockdown, and I know my standing medium punch is 6, it will counter hit a 3-frame normal. They'll contact on the same frame. And in Street Fighter V, there's a priority system where medium strength attacks will beat lighter strength attacks if they occur on the same frame. So these attacks happen at the same time, but because of the priority system, I will get the counter hit because my attack is greater strength. So, knowing what I know now, if I do this correctly, I can at least uppercut. If we were to go further, we would try back recovery. So if I sweep my opponent and they back recover and I hit medium punch, I'm way too far away and they get up later. In fact, they actually punish my recovery of my standing medium punch. So I need a different solution. So if I'm +8, I know that my crouching medium punch is 7 frames and it has 3 active frames, so this should actually connect on the last active frame. This is something that I might post on Twitter just to demonstrate how later active frames work. This is actually going to have a lot of advantage if I do it correctly. So +7, and this is normally +5 on counter hit. So there's something a little complicated going on there with active frames and the way your character is recovering, but I have even more advantage if I use this crouching medium punch. But if I do that same crouching medium punch and my opponent normal recovers, I no longer have the advantage because I'm only +3 on normal recovery because of that 5-frame difference. So I really just wanted to record and show you how to use this wake up action, but that ended up being how to really understand how wake up timing works in this game. So the other part is the guard. It's the exact same scenario. You can sort of mash the inputs. I'll show with uppercut. When they do an invincible reversal, I should also show that as well. So this is just when my opponent blocks. This is what I've been demonstrating. If my opponent is blocking, they'll respond with their 3-frame attack. And this is how you can develop frame traps, and it's a really, really good feature. So another important thing to program is your opponent responding with an invincible move. Invincible moves, they don't care if you have advantage. Because they're invincible, you cannot attack them. So I will demonstrate the same setup with the sweep. I'll dash up with standing light punch, which I show that it can counter hit the opponent if I'm close enough. If I contact my opponent, I'm close enough for this sweep, but they uppercut, not much I can do there. I have to block. I can't attack there. So this is a good thing to practice. If my opponent does that and I block, I should train this scenario so I can optimize my damage.
Welcome back, and that does wrap up AutoMattock's Street Fighter V lesson for today, but we are answering a ton of questions. But how do you feel, AutoMattock, about this lesson, and is there any key things that you want our viewers to walk away with, or maybe go back and pay attention to a little bit more after this is done?
Sure. Crush counter combos are really important. Neutral crush counter normals, like something like Sagat's standing heavy kick for the crush counter, you want to know how to optimize those, what you can do after it, and what kind of knockdown is after it. Throws. If it weren't for throws in Street Fighter V, it may not be that interesting of an exchange. Throws are absolutely what opens up your opponent to choosing anything but blocking. Overheads are pretty much reactable, so the throwing part is what causes your opponent to guess. So then you got to work around frame trapping the throw, baiting the throw, punishing the throw, or throwing them to encourage them to throw. Really important concepts.
Nice. I mean, I think that kind of relates to our next question, which is, would you suggest any like training drills or regimens or anything? Like, do you go into the lab and you're like, all right, I'm going to practice these counter combos, and then I'm going to practice this, and that? Or do you just go in there and try to think about the things that you need to work on and go from there?
Oh, there's many ways to approach this. You can go to the super maximum 100% optimized situation, something you might see myself or Javits post on Twitter, these sort of stun combos or different situations. As far as like drilling, sometimes myself, I just want to get my hands warm. I might do some Kara Tiger shots just to get the fingers moving. As far as drilling the knockdown situations, after I've completed that portion in the lab, unless I'm messing it up, I don't really go back and do it again. But as far as learning just a generic knockdown, seeing what it can do, for sure I would drill it in that moment. I would suggest for starting is frame trap into throw and then learn what your character can do after the throw. I don't think there's any characters who can really dash after throw. Maybe some exceptions, Nikali and V-Trigger, you can dash up after throw. But most characters, after you throw them and then they normal recover, you might have a crush counter button that you can attack them with as they're getting up, but that's about it. But you got to know that to at least train them, to condition them to block on wake up. And then you might be able to walk up and throw with them, even though you don't have the advantage to do it.
Yeah, now that you've exposed everyone to all these options, learning how to implement all of those is probably the next step. But something you mentioned just now actually is perfect for a question in our Q&A section, where one of our viewers was wondering, when do you find something and you record it and decide, okay, I'm gonna put this up on Twitter and show people what I found, or I just find something and then move on?
That's an interesting question, because I don't always post something when I feel like I usually don't assume that what I'm doing is optimal. What I'm trying to post on Twitter is what I think is perhaps a discovery, maybe, but I'm on the path to I'm trying to show the figuring out process.
Right.
Like maybe I'm not there yet, but this is how I'm getting to that path.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, that figuring out process is perfect for those of you in the chat who are wondering about plateaus, right? You have to continuously figure things out, not only in the game, but with your own personal play. Do you have any tips to our viewers who are hitting their plateaus right now and need that extra boost to, keep growing and keep getting better?
For sure, there's a couple of answers for that. One is to take a break. Oftentimes, I'll stop playing for like a month and I'll come back with fresh ideas, different approaches. Maybe I was stuck in approaching a problem in one way and I didn't realize it. So I'm sort of hitting the reset button by not playing. But that can also be duplicated, emulated by playing another character or even another fighting game. I learned so much from playing Marvel 3, honestly. I learned about resource management. I learned in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, that's when I really started getting into frame data. I dabbled with Street Fighter 4, but it wasn't until Cross Tekken that I was really like, how can I make this? And Street Fighter 5 was really when I started putting all the data together and maximizing all the things I've learned in the past. But that would have never happened if I didn't play all these games, play all these weird characters. I've learned a lot of lessons along the way.
Yeah, and also goes to show that, anybody in the chat who might be feeling a little anxious, like, oh, this is my first Street Fighter, or, I've only been playing for the last few years, or you haven't played the original way back in the day, you can still find your footing, you can still level up, and you can still be one of the best. You don't need to be a legacy player playing for your whole life. You just have to know how to train, how to learn, and how to make sure you're, actually investing in yourself and putting in that effort. So we are going to bring everyone into the Q&A now because Mama Dao is still here with us and we want to be able to answer everyone's questions. And there's some questions that you guys sent that involves all of us or, is directed at all of us. So we're going to go ahead and hop into that. Nice to have everyone's beautiful faces on the same screen.
Hooray!
Yay!
But, hey, we should kick it off. Do you guys have any questions for each other?
Oh.
Help me DP properly in ST because Street Fighter 4 has ruined me.
Oh, is it Super Turbo? Yeah, you got to pronounce the whole word down.
Vi taught me
down,
to swing
diagonal.
my arm.
Yeah, piano helps a lot too.
Yeah. But yeah, Street Fighter 4 and 5, I just did diagonal into DP, but I can't DP at all to save my life in ST.
Yeah. Yeah. That may explain like the shortcuts and easier inputs that you find in the later fighting games.
So while I have all of our guests here, we are going to toss a quick poll up because I'm also curious as to Mama Dao's and AutoMattock's personal preference on which platform they focus on. We talked about all these platforms: Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, everything. What's y'all's preference? And chat, let us know what your preference is too. Let's see.
So for me, I personally don't like being front-facing. So I don't use Instagram as much, but I really want to just to create memories. But my main account now is Twitter just because I feel like it's the best way to interact with the community and it's more fun that way.
For me, Twitch is the primary place for me to put the work into. YouTube is for like documentation purpose for me. It's really about having an idea, condensing it, putting it into video format so I can refer it to people if they have a question about it. I don't have to answer it on stream. I can continue doing what I'm doing and put it over on YouTube. Twitter is another way to engage. It's an easier, like fast-paced. I can just get this 20-second clip out there, promote the fun, the funny elements, try to get that branding out there with Twitter. But Twitch is the where most of the hours go into.
Nice. Yeah, personally, I do enjoy Twitter. I feel like it's short and sweet and concise, and I was like, all right, that's enough for me. But I need to work on multiple platforms myself. Hopefully you guys are going to be doing the same after this. So yeah, and it looks like the chat 56% also feel on Twitter. I get it. But yeah, there was also some other interesting questions that I think might be tailored towards Street Fighter, but I think could also be interpreted on the social media side, so you both can answer here. But we've talked a lot about numbers, whether it's your personal engagements on social media or frame data and recovery and all that jazz. So AutoMattock, you can start, but how do you go about, one, keeping all these numbers in your head and then going into the match, using it and remembering it? Sometimes I'll practice in the lab for 10 hours straight, and the second I get into the match, it's gone, disappeared.
It goes back to internalizing, attaching meaning to what the numbers mean. So you learn how to speak the language, but then you want to speak sentences. You want to be able to just use it comfortably. When I'm in a match, I'm not thinking, oh, I'm +2, I'm +3, therefore blah blah blah. That's not where my head is at. It's already at where I know this works. I know why it works. How do I implement it? What is my opponent thinking? And maybe when I'm playing a match, I don't know, like Fong's crouching medium kick. Usually I'm thinking crouching medium kick, that's got to be like -2, right? So I'll just bring it, oh, that's got a frame event. What? That's +3? But now I know. Now I know how to translate that language within the match. I don't have to go into training mode. I already know he's +3. Leave him alone.
Nice. And then on the social media side for you, Carolyn, these numbers that we get, the best ways to use those. Do you have any tips on that for our viewers?
Yeah, so in the first episode, UIU was talking about how those numbers, or like how they look at those numbers when they look at applications for players. So like if you think about it, brands and sponsors basically need us, like influencers and such, just so they can promote whatever they need to promote. So if you have a bigger following, it's more appealing for them. So yeah, build those social media numbers. And like I said earlier, in our EXO Academy lessons, I teach you how to pool those numbers, but you can always search them on Google again. But yeah, use those numbers, put them in a deck because they're really important, and that's what companies really care about.
Awesome. Let's see. I'm still taking a look. We have a lot of questions. Thank you guys so much for sending these in, by the way. I hope you've been enjoying, getting some of these answers. I'm going to try to get to a few more. But there was an interesting question. We're going to take it a little bit back to something that AutoMattock mentioned a few minutes ago about Twitch and, how it's one of his preferred platforms. But there was a question from the chat about streaming on Twitch and time. Is there a minimum time? From your experience, do you have, a set time in your mind when you're starting your stream? Like, I'm guaranteed going to stream 90 minutes or so on and so forth. How do you feel about that?
Minimum about 3 hours. Once I get to about 4 hours, that's when I notice my energy levels are starting to not be as strong. And learning, on that, I also try to pace myself in the beginning because sometimes I come out too energetic. And by the time it's like 2.5 hours, I'm really drained. So it's like a marathon sometimes. I try to learn how to just take it easy, be cool. And then when the moments are funny, try to be a little theatrical, but not, still authentic, not too generic. Just keep it nice. But every now and then I'll try to do a marathon, really like 8 hours, but not all the time. I have to keep it sustainable and within my schedule. So 3 to 4 hours is where I'm at personally.
Yeah, and Mama Dao, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you mentioned in your segment a lot about how consistency is much more important. Like, even if you don't have the means to stream every single day, maybe that one day a week you are streaming, you're very consistent, you're using content from that stream, throughout the week to promote yourself. Can you talk a little bit more on, limited time, but still maximizing, your marketing, I guess you could say? I don't know what the best word is for that.
Yeah, so I think it's more quality over quantity, and it depends on some people that sometimes quantity works better. But if you don't have a lot of time to dedicate towards streaming, just make it worth it. Like, you can also just time it too for like special benchmarks. Like, let's say you won a local tournament one day, you can just promote it or your stream by saying, "Hey, I just won blah 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 blah, like WNF or something. Watch me stream tomorrow." Like, Item, as soon as he won Capcom Cup, went straight to Twitch, and then he had like instantly a huge amount of followers from that one Twitch stream. So you can also do more quality that way too, and just time it and then combine it with the consistency so people they know that you're reliable, and reliability is important in this day and age to get your content discovered too.
Very, very important. And it's difficult. It is difficult maintaining a schedule and staying consistent. And, let's be honest, how many times do you see on your timeline a day? Sorry, guys, I know I said I was going to stream, but it just happens that way. And so I think it's another part of the process, but there was a few questions in regards to using the same content on multiple platforms. How do you feel about that? How do you need to change your content per platform? I know we talked a bit about Instagram prefers text, because there's a lot of images and stuff like that. But what about, videos? We talked about Twitch clips, but maybe on the YouTube side, it needs a little bit more TLC. Do you have any tips on that?
Yeah, if you can afford it, there's a thing called Adobe Rush or Adobe Premiere Rush. It's a lot less intimidating than the actual Premiere, but if you just add like a little bit of clips, some music, zoom in on your face, like those meme edits, it can go a long way. And use like those programs to just make like a 2-minute clip, post it on Twitter, and then it can use that clip to promote your YouTube and your Twitch. So a little goes a long way.
And what about viewers? Because now we're getting to the point where there's a lot of different platforms people can actually stream to. So if they're really trying to promote their brand, is it better for them to like stick to one streaming platform, or should they disperse it? There's things like Restream and stuff out there now. And I mean, depending on your affiliate status or partner status, you might not even be able to do these things. So be careful if you are, but I do know that there are options for that. And people seem to be curious about splitting your viewers among platforms, or if that's just helping get get eyes on you everywhere.
First off, if you can afford Restream on a personal level, that means you're doing great. Yeah, different platforms have different audiences. Like, for example, Facebook and I think YouTube, they're very common with like Spanish speakers, Brazilians, etc. Facebook, I think that's like the primary social media for a lot of Asian players. Like, I know Taiwan and Hong Kong still heavily use Facebook events, and they stream, or some of them live stream on Facebook. And there's always something new popping up too, like Mildom, for example, for Japan. A lot of the Japanese players are switching from Twitch to Mildom. But just stay alert and keep adapting, and then always use trial and error. Like, maybe stream one day on Twitch and another day stream on Facebook. There is exclusivity stuff, so research that. Don't quote me on this, because I don't do personal streams. But yeah, use trial and error and see what works best for you, or do a little research on where your audience is too.
Nice. All right. I'm taking a look through a few more of our questions here. But yes, how are you guys feeling so far? It looked like AutoMattock wanted to say something. So I was like,
I've been wanting to talk about developing your stream, like your personal stream, where it may not seem like you have a lot of viewers. Sometimes when you're just starting off, you might have 5, 6, and nobody's really talking to you. And that's such an important part, is to be able to respond and get to know your viewers. And so they come back and it feels like you're hanging out with friends. But sometimes you don't have anybody talking to you and you feel like you're hosting a radio show. And that's how I approach it. Sometimes I may have 100, 200 viewers, nobody's saying nothing, but I still treat it as if I know people are watching. I have to keep the same energy. But what I really want to point out is that what you're doing in that moment is preparing for an opportunity that might arise later. Maybe somebody hosts you, or maybe in my case, what has grown my stream is a new character coming out. That's one of my strong skills, is breaking down the character. So all the things I'm doing in between are leading up to that moment and seizing that, and that's going to create more followers, more people in the chat, more people to talk to, and that's how I've grown my platforms.
Yeah, that's actually a good example too, to plan your content ahead of time. Like, for example, if you know there's going to be a content drop, make sure to block that time and like plan a little bit more, just so you can optimize that timing and not squander it.
Another question from the chat, which is really good, and I think you guys will be able to expand on this, is how do you approach understanding and pushing the strengths of your own brand? So you mentioned, when a new character is out, you're on it, people know they can rely on you when there's a new character out. So how can others go about identifying and strengthening these elements that make people remember them?
To be honest, I personally am not the biggest fan of Lab Monster. I think it's not quite the most descriptive, but I embrace it. I know that's what people know me for. So if I'm going to be Lab Guy, cool. In my heart, sometimes I'm the competitor. But if this is where it's at, then, I'll take it. I'll definitely go with it, because it is something that I'm passionate for. So seeing the feedback from what your audience is saying, and if it's something that you're willing to embrace and run ahead with it, then I think it's absolutely a strong point.
Yeah, and I think like it adds a lot towards your personal branding. Like, I'm not a player, I'm not the best player, but my account shows that I love Sakura, and I'm super wholesome. So like, just try to find what works for you and then amplify it. And this is like, you're curating your feeds, and this is how people are going to view you.
I think there's a certain risk associated with it as well. And I try to lean into the discomfort. Maybe I'm doing something, I don't know if it's going to work or not. Just like in training mode, in the laboratory. Have an idea, I think about it for a little bit in training mode, and then I try it. I try it on stream. And if it doesn't work, well, then I'll try something else.
All right. I'm taking a look at some of our questions from when you guys originally applied, and I'm seeing some really interesting questions in here. A lot we've already covered. So if I don't get to those ones, it's probably because we've already covered this topic at some point. But someone asked, and I'm asking this because I feel like it's important, and getting y'all's feedback on this is going to be important. But they said, how do I stop being excited about attending and competing so I can take it serious and have fun? So, I'm interpreting this as, they're still very excited to go to events and stuff, and it's distracting them from the job at hand, competing, getting better, and then having fun through playing better in the tournament itself. And, I want to start off by saying, don't ever stop being excited about going to these events, because this is really what our community is about. But I do understand sometimes, you're so happy to be there, and then it comes down to the tournament and you're like, oh no, I definitely did not utilize my time properly to maximize my experience at this event when it comes to competing. So any tips there for our viewers?
Sometimes it's on the tournament, the situation, like, do they have setups for casuals? Are most people kind of going to themselves? Can you fit in? But I agree, like, I want the tournament experience to be wonderful for that person who goes 0-2. Do they have something to do after they're done playing? Because it's so sad to me when you spend plane ticket, hotel, you play in a tournament, and then that's it. So I want to see more casual setups, and I think pursuing those casual setups and also getting to know the community and embracing that, enjoying that, like, it's like the arcades back in the day, and you get it maybe once a month. You gotta go after that. It's such a wonderful thing with fighting games.
Yeah, and I want to.
It's easier.
I want to add on to that like, you spend all that money to travel there, so might as well optimize it. So like, how often are you going to be in a room full of all that high level talent? And then I think Jin, you mentioned in the UIU episode, do photo shoots, interact with people. This is like a perfect time to get that photo op with like a Daigo or something that you can use on social media, or like record tournament matches that aren't on stream and upload that as your content. There's a lot of opportunities at tournaments, so it's a great way to just like use it in your advantage and not just focus on competing, because let's face it, a lot of us aren't going to make that top 8 on Sunday.
All right. So yeah, I mean, a lot of these questions that you guys asked, I feel like we did cover it, but don't forget that after we are off camera, we still will be in the chat answering any more questions that you have. And of course, you guys can reach out to us on social media as well. And you can use that hashtag SF5 Street Smarts to follow up with our discussion today. And we're here for you guys. We're here to help. And we have more episodes of Street Smarts on the way, of course. So, oh my goodness, I definitely miss going to tournaments, and I miss seeing everybody. So talking about these questions where we're like, I'm excited to go to these events. I'm feeling that on a constant level. I'm like, the
we'll be more
withdrawals.
excited when they return. We've been in the lab, we've been working on our personal branding, and then when we come see each other again, it's going to be wonderful.
Exactly. Once we come out of this, we are going to be so much stronger. So I'm going to shoot around one question before we wrap it up to both of you guys. We're in quarantine, plenty of time to learn and pick up new things. Give us some tips, give the viewers some insight. Where are some areas that they can get started right now? Where can they start learning things, or what are things they should be picking up while we have all of this extra time? Or even something you guys are picking up right now.
Well, what I think when I watch these recordings these lessons it might be overwhelming, all this information. Like, you gotta be in a classroom setting, take notes, and like, oh man, did I miss something? I just go into training mode and think about one or two things that I talked about, and then try it out to see if you get the hang of it. Just try a little bit and see what works and what doesn't. It's so rewarding, the sense of discovering and understanding how things work, and then putting it into a real environment.
Yeah, and then with me, I have so much time to learn things right now. Like, I thought I had a good grasp on graphic design, but like, I've been using my boyfriend. Sorry, there's a bug here. I've been using my boyfriend's YouTube channel to experiment making thumbnails, and then it's just a fun way to like give myself little challenges and make something out of, like, because he's doing each character, so it's giving me fun prompts. And I saw someone was learning how to do a lot of video editing and content creation. This is a perfect time too, and there's so many free resources. Like I said, YouTube is a good resource. I've been using the free trial of Skillshare. That's not a paid sponsorship, but I love Skillshare. But yeah, you have all this time, learn something, and this is our hyperbolic time chamber right now, and I want to see everyone coming out with like their strongest skills.
That was good.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I've been practicing my video editing so much, and I'm excited for upcoming wave of EXO Academy very soon. Unannounced, but it's coming very soon. I'm super excited, but I've been practicing my video editing because I want the content to be more engaging, especially now that we've got some awesome partnerships, which means all of our content is not going to be behind a paywall anymore. So you guys will be able to enjoy it in real time in this upcoming wave. I'm super excited. So with all that said, you guys, make sure you're utilizing this time well. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, AutoMattock and Mama Dow, for shedding your wisdom on us today. And for all the viewers, don't forget, this video will be live, will be on VOD after our live broadcast is over. We are going to be in the chat once we are off screen to answer any final questions. And we really, really want you to follow up the discussion on social media. Use all those social media tips that we've learned today to talk about your time here. Let us know how you enjoyed it and follow up with any additional questions. So we do have more episodes of Street Smarts on the way in the future, and we will be posting about the applications and all that jazz when the time comes. So hopefully you'll tune in, because like we teased a little bit earlier, we are going to have other guests like Spooky and all of these amazing people to kind of help you with everything you're going to need once we're done with this quarantine and you're out there being a superstar. All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please, have a great day. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next time.